जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी गोपी जनवल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदनंदन सत्यनंदन श्यामतीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी गोपीजनवल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदनंदन सत्यनंदन श्यामतीरावनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी। Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Hare Ram Sankirtan Mahadev ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Agnan Dhanandasya Dhanantan Salakya Chakshudunyatam Tasmi Shri Gurave Namaha. Chaitanya Mano Vishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale I'm the Padamigam Darati Deham Shivaro Shivatapatam Shivu Nishtamansta Virupam Sagrajatam Saganagana Pamiham Shivu Advaitam Savadutam Paritam Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Udvav Shama Shiva Shakam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinu Bandhu Gopisha Gopisha Hara Karanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavan Shri Vrishabhanusute Devi Namami Hripe Panchakalpatarubhishya Kripasindhubhaya Chapatyanam Pavanabhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Krishna. Welcome everybody to Saturday Satsang. Very today. Does anybody recollect what we discussed last week? Anybody? I don't remember. I think we were discussing second chapter, 31st verse.
We were discussing about how we should work only 8 hours and balance the rest of our life also.
Okay.
Mainly about work and our duty.
More working and our duty. Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, so any thoughts? Basically, how should we work? Krishna is talking about this. So two aspects in this. One is, know your specific duty and do your duty. That's what he's talking about in verse 31. So what is our understanding so far? What is our duty? Anybody wants to share? What do you think is your duty? Okay, so there are two kinds of duty. So there are two states of living. Okay, either we are in liberated state or we are in conditioned state. Okay? So liberated state means that we have actually risen above the bodily platform. Okay? Liberated state means we have risen above the bodily platform. And conditioned state means we are within the bodily platform. Okay? So when we are within the bodily platform, when you say within the bodily platform, that means that we are still, we don't really think that we are not this body. We, to a great extent, think that we are this body. And we are living, we are trying to live on this platform, which means that we are living thinking I'm this body, how do I take care of this body? Then, I and mine, basically. So if we are living still on the platform of I and mine, okay, then there is one type of duty. And if we have crossed that stage, that means we understand that I am not this body, I am spirit soul, then we have another duty to perform. Okay. Now, for those who are in the I and my platform, Vedic culture gave us what is called as Varnashrama Dharma. Okay, so this Varnashrama is, there are 4 Varnas and 4 Ashramas. Varna is Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, and Ashrama is Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasa. Now, this Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra is not a caste system as it became in India. As usual, everything gets contaminated because of selfish motives of people. So a very scientific system, which was actually given by Lord Krishna himself, became known as the caste system. Okay, and then caste system brought in things like reservations and more facilities for the lower class and this and that and all that, and which is all completely external, because Krishna says that these varnas are based on guna and karma. Guna and karma means based on your nature and based on your qualities. It is not based on birth. It's not that what is that? What are the types of reservations we have? Some scheduled caste, SC, ST, and this and that. Not that. Not that. Right? It was based on guna and karma. It was based on our quality and the work that we do. Now, if somebody is the most intelligent class, and this varna actually it exists across the world, everywhere. Even today it exists. Just that we don't recognize it. So basically, there are 4 types of people. First is the most intelligent. The Brahmana is considered as the most intelligent person. Why most intelligent? Because Brahman Janati iti Brahmana. Because he knows Brahman. He knows who he is. He knows the Supreme Lord. He knows what is our relationship with the Supreme Lord. And he lives his life according to that. So he is the most intelligent person. And since the goal of human life is to anyway kind of organize our life in such a way that we can realize this the real goal, which is to realize Supreme Lord, and a Brahmana knew the path. He, based on scriptural study, he would have understood this, and he knows what needs to be done to actually achieve perfection. So his role was to guide the rest of the society, rest of the Varnas, to live a life such that they can achieve this perfection. Okay, so you can interrupt if you have any questions in the middle, because this is very important to understand. So Brahmana was the most intelligent because he knew the goal of life. He knew what needs to be done. He knew how to achieve it, right? And so he was the advisor, in some sense. He was the advisor of all other Varnas, right? And he was advising people, and people used to take advice from Brahmanas to understand how they should live their life. Okay, who are these other classes of people? The second one is, after Brahmana, then there is Kshatriya. So the Kshatriya is the administrative class. So you see, in every society, there is the intelligent class, then there's the administrative class. Now, the administrative class, it's not that they are not intelligent, but their focus is different. They use their intelligence for a different purpose. They use their intelligence for organizing things, managing things. This is what they use their intelligence for, right? So they are generally rulers, administrators, kings, etc., right? And their idea was to organize the society, to give facilities to people such that they can actually realize the goal of life. So their idea, so they used to take guidance from Brahmanas, and they used to organize society, provide facilities so that people can actually achieve the real goal of life. Right, and of course, I mean, previously also there used to be tax collection, and we actually read from Srimad Bhagavatam that previously tax used to be 25% flat, no slab business, okay, and not more also, and no tax evasion and all that, right? Like people do today. Everybody had to pay 25%. Nobody can escape. Right now, that totally depends on the ruler. If he wants to take tax, he will take tax, and nobody can deny. And the rulers were very clear. They used to take this not for building their own bank balance, as people do today. Their idea was to use this money to provide that facility, to provide facilities for the people. For what? So that they can realize the goal of their life. So this tax collection was something which existed before also, but the intent was very clear, is to actually give facilities to the people. That is also the intent today, but unfortunately it doesn't get used, right? And what kind of facility? Not just external convenience, material convenience, no. Facilities such so that people can utilize whatever is required to perfect their life, to achieve the perfection of their life. So that was the role of Kshatriya. And in Sanskrit, Kshatriya means Kshatrayate iti Kshatriya. Means one who protects from harm. So the other duty of a Kshatriya was also to protect people from harm, from enemies, from difficulties, etc., etc. Right? And specifically, Kshatriyas were the people who were also allowed to eat meat. However, they had to kill their own animal. Okay, so they had to go to the forest, and not domestic animals, not like goat, sheep, etc. Right? For them, they were allowed to go to the forest to kill animals naturally, right? And why were they allowed to do that? Because on the battlefield, if they have to kill somebody, if they are not used to killing, then how will they kill other people in a battle? So they were given this as a training to go to the forest and kill wild animals, specifically who are creating trouble for others, and then they could eat that meat. So this was the second class of people. Now, third class was what is called Vaishyas, what we today call businessmen. Now, however, the role of Vaishyas was very different. Bhagavad Gita also says later, Krishi and Goraksha and Vanijya. So three things. Krishi is agriculture, Goraksha is cow protection, and Vanijya is basically, you can say business, but more of barter. What they used to do is, some places there is more produce, some places there is less of something produced, and they create some kind of exchange system, right? But their focus was Krishi and Goraksha. So Krishi, agriculture. Now today what has happened, most of the businessmen are in the city, right? And they are more focused on industries. When did these industries come into vogue in India? Anybody has any sense? When did this industrialization start? People who are interested in history would know. When did this industrialization start in India?
So post-independence is when the formal in quotes industrialization started in India.
Yes.
But there existed small industries before also, like cannon making and those sort of things, right? That has been existing for many hundreds of years.
Yeah. And why did this industrialization start?
Post-independence, right?
Yeah. Why? Yeah.
The intent was to move towards prosperity.
Who started this? Who was the father of modern industry?
So if you're asking the question from Indian point of view, then Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru
Pandit
was
Jawaharlal Nehru,
this idea from Western, especially Europe.
Yes, so Pandit. He was called Pandit. Okay. So what did this Pandit do? Pandit said that agriculture-based is backward. He said agriculture-based economy is backward. Okay. So the new temple, what did he say? He said the new temple in the modern India is going to be the industry. Okay. So these are our leaders, great leaders, so-called, who actually killed, who were responsible for killing our culture. Everything, actually. Complete Western adoption happened because of them. So he said that, industrial development is the only way to make progress, because that's what the Western civilization, the Westerners had done. So, and since we were aping the West like nobody's business, so we said, India had agriculture, India was self-sufficient, everything was there in India, but we said, no, let's forget about all this, let's start industries. And then, we started the whole industrial so-called development, and which is going on even today. And most businessmen are involved in this industrialization, okay, unfortunately. And what happened to the original industry, which was agriculture? Gone, right? And we today end up importing very basic stuff from other countries, isn't it? Anybody who understands all these, today's trade and India's, economic condition, you'll understand that we are actually importing so many things that were actually previously being grown in India. Why? Simply because, we said industrialization is the way to go. So what did this industrialization do? This industrialization brought in modernization. Everything became modern, so to speak, right? And we gave up the foolproof basis for economy. The foolproof basis for economy was not this plastic paper. Okay, it was actually the wealth of the land and animals and cow protection, right? Cow protection. So this whole, taking care of cows, because Krishna says actually, Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmanahitaya. So Krishna says Brahmanas and cows have to be protected, because what is Krishna's land is called Goloka. What is Go? Go is cow. Loka is land. So Krishna's land is called place of cows, because that's what he does. So what is the occupation of the Supreme Lord? The occupation of the Supreme Lord is that he's a cowherd, not coward, cowherd, right? So now this cow herding was given up because of industrialization. And of course, then there's you should hear about this. How the modern what we call Jersey cows in India, actually the milk that they produce actually is resulting in major serious illnesses in the country. There's there are multiple people who speak about it. I'm not the expert in this topic, but if you go online and you search for Jersey cows, you will get like tons of videos speaking about all the ill effects of drinking these Jersey milk. And that is why, of course, we have to drink Desi milk, which is Desi cows, which it's today become another business called A2 milk. Everything in modern world becomes contaminated. But we should drink milk from pure cows, which are not mixed breed. So what is this Jersey cows? Jersey cows is basically pure breed, which were in India. They were crossbred with the Western ones. And because of various reasons, the milk actually produced from these Jersey cows is absolutely unhealthy. And unfortunately, at least for people in Karnataka, Nandini is the biggest supplier of Jersey milk and of course, Nandini milk is not even Jersey; it's even further contaminated. But anyway, so the point was that, in fact, actually, why this is important. That there's one very expert who speaks about this topic, and he was saying that the whole reason why today's people's health has gone for a toss is because of this milk. Because milk is so powerful in terms of its ingredients, but we're not drinking the right kind of milk. The children, small age children have problems, a lot of problems related to women health is because of milk. So many things are there. Anyway, so the point is that these Vaishyas were people who are supposed to protect cows and do agriculture. Why do agriculture? Otherwise, are we going to eat nuts and bolts that are being produced from these industries? Nowadays, if you ask children saying that, where does milk come from? They will say in Nandini packet, Nandini in packet, right? Where does water come from? They'll say from the tap. They don't know, basically, they don't really know how things are working. Where does food come from? Supermarket. Food doesn't come from supermarket, unfortunately, right? Now, if you create a civilization, if you create a commercial establishment which is based on industry, what is happening? So many people from surrounding villages, etc., come to Bangalore for what? To be, of course, not now, but previously to become Ola and Uber drivers. And then I used to ask people saying that, what about your land in your village? Says, it's there, nobody to take care. And of course, government is not helping. In fact, we are actually forming. We are in the process of creating a farm community. Okay, so this is going to give facility for people to live simply on land, simple living, high thinking. Okay, without any tensions of this modern, way of life and work and tension. What do we need money for? We need money for shelter, which we will give on the farm, for food, which we'll get on the farm, for healthy air and healthy environment, which we'll give, and people can just come and live without any expense, right? And this is something which ISKCON is spearheading, but and in near Bangalore we are creating a project for this. Okay, so the idea is that people should be given an opportunity to experience what this is, because everybody just thinks that this is the way of life, but this is not the way of life. This is hellish, actually. This is not real life. Real life is when we can live on the farm, simply get up in the morning, chant Hare Krishna in the midst of, in a group of devotees, then go to the farm, do some farming or pottery or something else, and protect some cows, and come back in the afternoon, have lunch, take rest for some time, again go out in the evening, do some work, and just be happy, attend Mangalarti, attend, just happy Krishna conscious life. This is real life. Okay, and we want to give this opportunity for others. So we are creating something where we will like we can get away, right? Like we will go to corporate and we'll tell people saying that, come and experience real life, right? And people can just come and stay there all Saturday and Sunday and experience bliss, happiness, right? Because that happiness existed when people very simply lived on the land, and before we complicated our life with the so-called city life, right? So that was Vaishya. So protecting animals, agriculture, and Vanijya. Vanijya basically means that, suppose say you are producing wheat and you don't have rice, you can exchange the excess wheat with somebody who is going to have rice. Now we're going to have these roles also on this farm community. There are people who are going to help with this Vanijya, with exchange with the rest of the world, and so on and so forth, right? So this was, now all of these three, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, these are specific or special qualities, special skills, right? A Brahmana has very sharp intelligence, very fine brain tissues. He can read shlokas, he can read stuff, memorize, chant, etc., etc. Kshatriya is more powerful, physical, going, protection, more rajasic. Brahmana is more sattvic. And then there is Vaishya, who's mixed of sattva guna and rajoguna and tamoguna, but he's business minded. So these are all specific skills. Now, those people who could not fit into any of these three categories, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, he used to be called Shudra. Basically, he's a helper class. He used to just help these three classes because he didn't have any specific skill of himself that he had. Right? So he used to just help the rest of the society. And, then that is how he used to contribute in the society. And that was so simple. And Shudra class, previously they were, I mean, in today's world, you can think of them as people who come and work in our houses, right? Maids and drivers and all that, right? Like that. So, but previously what used to happen was people used to one family used to be dependent on another family, right? So the husband, wife, children, everybody used to kind of be associated with one family. And that family used to take care of all the requirements, their requirements, clothing. It used to be practiced that, when there was festival, these people used to be given clothes and money and all this, so that, they could take care of things. And they were never given any kind of salary and all that like today, because that's also become a business. And it was the responsibility of the owner to take care of all requirements. So if somebody is unwell in that family, a helper family, then the owner has to take care. So everything used to be taken care by the family for whom the Shudra was working. It used to be very nice facility, right? Almost like extended family, extended help, right? Now but these four classifications were mainly for men. So this was called Purusha, for Purusha, right? For Stri, this is Purusha Dharma, and then there is Stri Dharma. Now, Stri Dharma means while there are common responsibilities for all women, which is to, take care of the family, give them culture. I discussed this in the past, right? Culture is transmitted by the mother, basically, right? So the mother is not aware, then, like, so simple thing, right? In India, fortunately, even today, there is this habit of putting rangoli, right? I hope everybody is aware of rangoli. I don't have to explain what rangoli is. And nowadays, because not all women are trained, the people who come for work, the maids, put rangoli. It's such a sad thing, actually. Every lady has to know all this, right? Cooking. People today don't know cooking, or they don't know how to cook nicely. Forget about, okay, they might know, but they don't know how to cook, because this is an art, right? So be it cooking or any of the arts like singing or dancing or whatever, embroidering, this, that, and all that, right? All of this was art which women used to develop from early age. No official, no going to some training class and all that. They used to learn at home, very simply. Right now, apart from all these women, and of course, Bhagavatam says Lajja Nari Bhushanam. What is that? What does this mean? Anybody understands? Lajja Nari Bhushanam. These are unheard of. And if we talk about these things, people keep thinking, what is this? Are we going back in time? We are not going back in time. We are going forward in time. We are actually progressing if we adopt these aspects. Yes, Prathamesh?
Lajja Nari Bhushanam means Lajja is a
ornament, right?
Quality that can be equal to Bhushan. Yeah, Bhushan, which means ornament actually.
Yeah. So it is almost like an ornament for a lady. Lajja. What is Lajja? Shyness. How many people today understand shyness? Boldness is what is appreciated, not shyness. Yeah, again, cultural deterioration. Actually, it is said that, actually, in fact, beauty of a lady is in her, is in how she keeps herself, right? How she moves around. So, it's that nature of shyness, right? Not, unfortunately, all this Western, yeah, I mean, it's just spoiled everything, unfortunately. It's not leading us anywhere, because that way of dressing can't be taken in silos. It comes with the mindset. What is the mindset? That I am independent, I can do whatever I want, I can live the way I want, I'm equal to man. All this is coming with the Western culture. And what is this thing about equal to man, not equal to man? Actually, this is not about equality at all. It's actually about two different individuals in the house with very opposite, almost opposite qualities, right? Taking on different roles. Now, man cannot be equal to women in terms of the roles that a lady plays. Similarly, lady cannot become equal to man, right? Now, you look at, men have not changed their dressing to try and wear clothes like women, but the other way around has happened. Why is that? Right? So, I mean, these are all like propaganda, right? Propaganda by Westerners, media. It's a big topic. What we think is modernization, is advancement, equality, etc., has actually resulted in exploitation of women. And I say this exploitation because, in India, fortunately, some bit of culture is still there. A lady who is working still has to do her cooking, still has to take care of children. Of course, she's the one who's going to give birth to a child. Men cannot give birth to children. And she takes care. She has to feed the child because child wants mother's milk, mother's love, mother's affection. Can't be replaced, right? Can't be replaced at all. There is no way. Of course, I mean, nowadays, all kinds of nonsense things are happening, even in India. I mean, these are unheard of. When I heard these things, I was really shocked. So many years ago, when there were sadhus who were talking about how the culture is going to be in modern Kali Yuga, then, there was discussion about women going to be killing their children. And sadhus who were discussing this said, what? Mothers are going to kill their own children? No, it's not possible. But it is happening today, isn't it? Absolutely happening, right? All the abortion clinics all over the country are just doing this, right? Just helping mothers kill their own children. Now, whether mothers don't want to take responsibility, whether there are whatever, right? In parents don't want to take responsibility. Sometimes it's unclear who the parent is. Now, any of these, whatever be the reasons, right? But children are being killed in the womb. Of course, then you talk to modern doctors, they say, no, fetus, it doesn't have any life till some X number of days. And before that, you can kill, it's just a piece of tissue. What nonsense. Bhagavatam clearly says that, only life enters the egg, only then it grows, right? So it's a jiva. There is jiva, soul has entered the mother's egg, right? How can you just say that it's non-living and then for your convenience go ahead and kill? It is murder, very clearly. Right? Then, of course, then today what is happening? Okay, that is one extremity. Then after that, women, mothers don't want to give milk to their children. They don't want to breastfeed their children. Now there are people who are, this has become a job now. There is a job, there is like a role available. Other lactating mothers, are available for giving milk to your child. As in, how fallen can we become? Now, when you hear all this, say like, what is this? As in, what are we really human beings or anyway? Very disturbing. So there is a role. There is a very, very important role for women to play, and I request all the women here and everywhere else, please don't give up your duties, because it is not replaceable. Please understand, it is not replaceable. Everything else can be replaced. Okay, earning other people can do, right? But taking care of children, giving them the love, affection, giving them the culture, bringing them up as responsible human beings, nobody else can do. Nobody else can do. So this is three dharma. So in addition to this basic dharma, a brahmana's wife used to have specific brahminical qualities. So for example, brahmana is used to doing puja, etc. Now the brahman's wife is trained to help him in doing puja, etc. Kshatriya's wife, we know in history so many women who are wives of kshatriyas who are ready to fight on the battlefield, right? When the need arises, they arose, right? It was not like they were ready, they were warmongers or fight mongers, but when the situation demanded, they were ready for it because they had that Kshatriya spirit in their blood, right? Then there was also Vaishya women who were Vaishya thought process, who could help with all this barter and these kind of things, right? But this is not their primary duty. If emergency, if there is a need, a specific need, they used to play those roles as well, right? And then Shudra women also. So this beautiful, this Varnashrama was designed because there are these four classes of men in any society. Actually, even if you go to the West, you'll see these four classes of men. There are the intelligent people, thinkers, who are philosophers, poets, authors, or great scientists, etc., etc. Right? Then, of course, then there are businessmen, there are administrators, and there are people who don't fit into any of these classes. So this classification was there and is there and will continue to remain, whether we like it or not. We might reject it, but still this class exists. And very interestingly, the Indian Brahminical class has become the new technology Shudra class. Okay, so this is what we have become, right? We are the intelligent people, Indians, Brahmana class, and we have become the technologists. And the technology is the work of Shudras. In previously, actually, it is technology is also work of Asuras. Okay, there is a demon by name Mayadanava. He was the greatest technologist, like Google of today's world, right? Asuras, they are not considered as high class. High class people are the Brahmanas who know Brahman Janati the Brahmana, who know the goal of life. Not the ones who write the best code, unfortunately. So this was Varnashrama. This was Varnashrama. This was a way of life. Way of life. What was the idea of this? Of course, ashrama. I didn't talk about ashrama. Ashrama, very important. There was brahmacharya for men. Boys used to go to school. Girls used to be trained at home, right? With reading, writing, all the arts, 64 arts are there. All of them, they used to be just trained at home. No need for going to school or anything. Then there was Grihastha at the age of 25, generally. Grihasthas, then people get married and they live together as husband and wife with the full responsibility of take responsibility of the child that comes into their house or children that come into the house, to make them devotees, to help them to perfect their life. And Grihasthas are the only class who can work. So Grihasthas work and earn money wherever possible, right? And then there is Vanaprastha. Now at the age of 50, everybody is expected to finish their Grihastha responsibilities. I won't say give up. Everybody is expected to finish their Grihastha responsibilities, which means if they have children should have been married, etc., etc., and no taking care of grandchildren. That it is the work of the children to take care, not the parents. So basically finish the responsibility and then utilize full life in service of the Lord. That's it. And the rest of the life they live like that. If somebody is very advanced, then they take sannyas, but that's not for everybody. But most people, husband and wife, used to live like vanaprastha. Vanaprastha basically means not sticking to home and hearth and, this is my house and this light has to be like this fan has to be like this. No, just give up attachment to the house, travel, go to the, yatras, go to other holy places, associate with other devotees, and live a happy, peaceful life, not centered around materialism. This is vanaprastha. And then finally, sannyas, if at all, right? So this used to be and this ashrama, the whole idea of ashrama was to teach us detachment. Why? Because like I said, after grihastha, there is no materialism in our life as such. There's no attachment to material things. So automatically people used to become detached from things, from family responsibilities, from material things, etc. Now all that can be done till one is in grihastha, up to age of 50. All this, buying stuff, spending, shopping, going out, this, that, and all that. But of course, it was not done mindlessly for sense gratification previously. It was all done with just an intention to carry out their responsibilities. That is how people used to live. Right. So the whole principle that Krishna is talking about here is know your varna, know your ashrama, and live according to that. That's it. Live as per the injunctions given in the Shastra. Now, one who has transcended, one who has crossed that stage of I and mine, can live a life, his swadharma, his or her swadharma is just completely bhakti, just serving the Lord. Now, that such kind of such people, they don't have any material responsibilities. Their only responsibility is to serve the Lord. Okay, so that is only for people who have crossed this stage of I and mine, not for everybody else. For everybody else, they have to follow this varnashrama and gradually become purified. Purified of what? Purified of this I and my mentality. Gradual. It's not, there's no shock treatment here. It doesn't work. It has to be very gradual. And over a period of time, people slowly develop detachment to all these things and understand the goal of life and start living very disciplined. The other interesting thing actually, whether we are one was Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra, everybody used to live a very disciplined life previously, because everybody used to have a guru. Shishyaste. Shishya means one who is disciplined. Shash dhatu in Sanskrit means discipline. So discipline was a part of everybody's life, not like only Brahmanas were disciplined, somebody else were not. No. And various aspects of discipline, right? Maintaining time, getting up in the morning, doing stuff on time, taking care of things, very responsibility, etc., etc. Everything very disciplined, very like military discipline, paka. Right? So all these were aspects of society, were very, what should I say? I mean, natural. These qualities were all natural in people previously, right? And people used to live very happily, content, happy life, not because of material things that they used to possess, right? Just like that, simple. That's why it's called simple living, high thinking. What is high thinking? Thinking about what is next, where am I headed, what should I do, how do I perfect life? This is simple living, high thinking. So all of you, I request all of you, maybe Krishna willing, and maybe in another 6 months we will have something to show. Then we will take all of you to the farm, and you can spend the weekend there and understand what it is to live so simply and happily, which is unknown, unfortunately, to the people of city life, city dwellers. So this is Swadharma. So Krishna is just telling Arjuna, saying that do your Swadharma. So he's saying, Arjuna, you're a Kshatriya, so you better do your job. Okay, you might be my friend and I am the Supreme Lord, but that doesn't give you any license for you to not do your duty. So please do your duty, which is to fight. Go and fight, right? And that's the whole conversation that is going to happen in the 3rd and 5th chapters of Bhagavad Gita about work, right? So then verse 32, he's saying, Idrichaya chopapannam svargadvaram apavrutam sukhi nakshatriya partha labante yuddham idrisham. He's saying, O Partha, happy are the Kshatriyas to whom such fighting opportunities come unsought, opening for them the doors of heavenly planets. So this is also very important. Actually, see, if one follows dharma, if they follows their duty properly, they they accumulate punya. Too much of punya means heavenly planets, where the happiness is of a very higher degree. Material happiness is of a very higher degree compared to this earthly planet. Right? And people previously used to be very conscious about going to Swarga, heavenly planets. This is not some exaggeration. So these planets exist. Moon planet is a heavenly planet. Sun planet is a heavenly planet. Like this, there are heavenly planets, and you can't just take a Sputnik or whatever and just knock on Mars saying, "Hey, can you open the door? I'm here. I'm come from Earth." It's just not possible. Kshine Punya Martya Lokam Vishanti. Like just like if you have to go to US or any other country for that matter, you need qualification. You need a visa, you need a passport, and for that visa, you would have submitted various qualifications that you have that will entail that they giving you a passport, etc., etc. Right? That will qualify you to get the visa, etc. So similarly, going to any other planet also there is a immigration, as you call it. You have to be qualified, otherwise you can't enter any other planet. Just like you can't take you can't just take some kind of a device and just enter into American space, because you will get detected and then shot down. Unidentified, unrecognized, unidentified flying object, UFO, right? And you'll be shot down. So just like it's not possible on Earth, it's not possible to go out on other planets, right? It's, in fact, this whole, what is that, Mars landing or whatever it was a big hoax. It was done in a studio, right? There are a lot of videos on the internet proving that as well. Anyway, but we believe everything, right? Everything that the media says has to be true, but it's not. Okay, verse 33. Atachetvam imam dharmyam sangramam na karishyasi tadaswadharmam kirtim cha hitva papam avapsasi. So he's saying, see, if you don't do your duty, you will certainly incur sin. Not doing duty results in accumulating sin. Hare Krishna. Sorry, I got disconnected. So sins means suffering in the next life, right? So Krishna is saying, don't do things such that you're going to accumulate sins and suffer. Verse 34, Akirtim chapi bhutani katayishyanti te vyayam sambhavitasya chakirtir manana adatirichyate. And then he's also saying, people will speak about your infamy. For a respectable person, dishonor is worse than death. So he's also trying to tell Arjuna, saying, Arjuna, as a Kshatriya, you have to do your duty, otherwise you'll become infamous as a person who gave up his duty. And for a respectable person, dishonor is worse than death, right? And of course, specifically in Arjuna's case, verse 35, Bhayadrana duparatam mamshante tvam maharatha yesham chatvam bahumato bhutva yasisi lagavam. He's saying the great generals who have highly esteemed your name and fame will think that you have left the battlefield out of fear only, and thus they will consider you insignificant. Verse 36, Avachyavadamsha bahun vadishyanti tavahita nindantastavam samarthyam tato dukkataram nukim. Saying your enemies will also describe you in many unkind words and scorn your ability. What would be more painful for you? So Arjuna is trying to instigate him, saying that, this is not right for you. Do your duty. That's what you need to be doing. Verse 37. Hato va prapsasi swargam jitva va bhokshase mahim tasmad uttishta kaunteya yuddhaya kritanishchaya. Saying, see, if you get killed, you will anyway go to the heavenly planets. If you win anyway, you'll enjoy earthly kingdom. So just get up and fight with determination. So this word, Krita Nishchayaha. So this word determination, this is also something, you know, grossly misunderstood. Determination doesn't mean that, okay, let me just quickly read this. Determination. There are determination in 3 modes. We'll talk about these 3 modes in detail later. But I want to just read this determination in 3 modes. Knowledge. Yes. Okay, this is 18th chapter, 18th chapter, verse 33, 34, 35. So I'll just read the translation. First one, it is describing the determination mode of goodness. It says, O son of Prutha, that determination which is unbreakable, which is sustained with steadfastness by yoga practice, and which thus controls the activities of the mind, life, and senses, is determination in the mode of goodness. So what is it saying? So this determination in the mode of goodness is for a sattvic person who is doing yoga. Yoga means bhakti yoga, right? And his determination is unbreakable. Unbreakable means once we decide, that's it. We end up doing it, right? And determination for what? For controlling the activities of mind, life, and senses, not for achieving something material. That is the next one. That is the determination in the mode of passion. But that determination by which one holds fast to fruitive results. Fruitive results is what we are trying to do, right? Results in religion, economic development, and sense gratification, right? Dharma, artha, kama. So we are trying to use our determination for dharma, artha, kama. That is determination in the mode of passion. But determination in the mode of goodness is for self-control, control of the mind, life, and senses. And that determination which does not go beyond dreaming, fearfulness, lamentation, moroseness, and illusion is in the mode of darkness. So they're also determined that I'm not going to do any work, I'm not going to do any useful stuff. I'm going to just sleep, be sleeping, dream about some big things, not do anything about it. That is also determination. But that determination is the mode of ignorance. So everything, actually everything that we see around us, all qualities are in 3 modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. So we'll discuss about that in 16, 17, 18 chapters of Bhagavad Gita. It came to my mind, so I thought. So here Krishna is saying, get up with that determination. Which determination is this? This is determination in the mode of goodness. Why? Because I have to do my duty. I have to control. Arjuna lost control over his mind, right? And his mind started saying, no, 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 don't fight. It's okay. Just chill, right? So Krishna is saying, no, no, become determined on the mode of goodness and then fight. And he's concluding this topic on initial topic on this work, and he's saying, Sukha dukkhe same kritva labha labho jaya jayo tato yuddha yujjasva naivam papam avapsisi. So we're going to discuss this again further, but just in summary, he's just saying, fight for the sake of fighting, without considering happiness or distress, loss or gain, victory or defeat. By doing so, you shall never incur sin. So we have to fight, do our duty. First of all, we should know what our duty is. And we should do our duty, not because we want to become famous or because something else. No, just because it is our duty. If we don't do it, we're going to incur sin. And we should do it without considering happiness and distress. You know, oh, no, I don't like doing this. So I'm going to do something else which I like, which might not mean my duty, right? Krishna talks about that also. We are not supposed to do others' duty. We're supposed to do our own duty without considering happiness or distress, loss or gain. So it's not that we work for only gain. No, even if there's loss, we work because we have to work. That's it. Victory or defeat. And by doing so, you shall never incur sin. So if we give up our duty on any reason, saying either I don't like it, it's not convenient, it's not giving me any benefit, I'm not going to get any gain from it, etc., we're going to incur sin. Now, whether we like it or not, or whether we're going to agree or not, we're going to incur sin, because that's what the rules of karma are. So we can't just run away from this laws of karma. Whether we like it or not, we are bound. We are bound. right? So we are bound by these laws of karma. So it is unavoidable. We have to do our duty. So request everyone to please introspect on this, because this is such an important thing. It is a life changer. If you can really think about these verses in the right spirit, it will change our life, and we will possibly be able to achieve, live life more meaningfully and achieve the real goal of life, which is absolutely not economic development. Economic development is just incidental in Grihastha Ashrama. We have to do economic development because we need money for making a living, etc., etc. But that's it. That's not the end all of life, right? And there are much bigger things than these. So yeah, I request all of you here to please introspect on this. Alongside, please do your bhakti. Please chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra every day. Then, please read books, Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. Please associate with devotees, and also please have only Krishna Prasadam. By doing this, we perfect our life. Alongside, rectify your duty, what you're doing, and try to bring it to the platform that Krishna is expecting us to be on, and that will help us to perfect our. So I'll end there. If anybody has any questions, you can kindly ask.